Hi everyone, my name is Boxiong. I'm from Victoria University of Wellington. Today I'm going to talk about my CCGrid paper, an NSGA-II-based approach for multi-objective microservice allocation in container-based clouds. The typical data center runs tens of thousands of servers. Among them, millions of applications are providing the service to the world. Unfortunately, these servers are not fully utilized. That's why today I'm going to propose a novel approach to allocate microservices to minimize the energy consumption of the data center and maximize the availability of applications. So I will first talk about the background and then introduce the existing work and highlight our contributions, and then discuss the approach in detail and reach our conclusion. A microservice can be represented as a workflow of individual services. So each microservice could have multiple replicates. So the availability increases when the replicates are spreading across physical machines. So when one physical machine is down, the servers, the microservice in other PMs can still maintain the availability of the application. So at the beginning of the microservice allocation, a set of containers comes to the data center and we allocate them to a set of PMs. So the energy consumption decreases when all the containers consolidate into a minimum number of PMs. So there's a trade-off between the energy consumption and the availability, because the availability requires the containers to be spread. The problem model can be seen in this figure. We have two objectives, energy consumption and availability. So when containers comes to the data center, it is either allocate to existing virtual machines or create a new one, and a new virtual machine is allocated to a physical machine. So we have three decision variables, and then for each containers, it can only be allocated once, and no resource overloading. So the existing works use rule-based approach such as bin packing rules, first fit, best fit, and spread from the popular container management to Kubernetes, and some meta-heuristic approach such as genetic algorithm. For the rule-based approach, they are basically greedy-based approach, so they are easily stuck at local optimal solutions. And for the meta-heuristic approach, only single objective are proposed. So in this work, we're going to propose an NSGA-II with a group representation, and we propose a set of operators to handle the trade-off between the two objectives. So we are using a standard NSGA-II framework with a group representation. So the highlighted line is the operators that we proposed for this algorithm. So the group representation can be shown on the right-hand side. It is a mimic of the allocation architecture. So a set of PMs is a variable, has a variable sizes, and each PM has a list of virtual machines, and each virtual machine has a list of containers. The first operator that we proposed is the gene level crossover. It uses two parents. Parents 1 and parents 2 are shown in this graph. So the gene level crossover compares each of these PMs from the parents and then copy the winner's architecture or structure into the child based on some criteria like the utilization or the duplication number. So for example, when we compare these two PMs and the first one has a better utilization, and then we copy all the structure into the child, including virtual machine types and the number of virtual machines and the containers. After that, copying the other one and the third one. And then when the containers has been allocated in the previous physical machines, because it can be only allocated once, so we are removing them if they are duplicated in the later virtual machines. And the utilizations is basically the CPU and memory utilizations of the PM. And duplication number is that when we're having the replicates from the same microservices, the number of the replicates is the duplication number. So during this sorting procedures, we sort the utilization with a descending order, and we sort the replicate number with ascending order, because we would like to have the minimum number of duplication numbers in the PMs. So after the allocation, the crossover, we can see that there are some free containers has been left without any allocation. So we are using another operator called arrangement to insert them back into the individual with some chances, like 50% of chance to use either of these methods. So an energy aware methods, like the example showing here, is that we first sort the containers inside the virtual machines, and then we're trying to replace the free containers with the two smallest containers inside the virtual machine. So after that, we got two smaller free containers, and then we allocate them with first fit and insert them back into the virtual machines. The logic behind that is smaller virtual machines are easier to be allocated. For the mutation operator, the first step is called unpacked. So we unpack the physical machines with low utilized resources or large replication number. So we first assign a probability to that. The higher utilization has a lower chances to be unpacked. So we can see that PM2 has a 40% of chance to be unpacked, and then we basically release all the containers from this PM and then reallocate them with rearrangement. And the second step is merge. So the logic behind it is that we replaced small virtual machines with a big one. So we sort the virtual machine inside PMs and then replace them with a bigger type of virtual machines. The reasons to do that is we are trying to minimize the overhead of virtual machines. So in the experiment session, we're using this set of parameter settings. When we compare different algorithms, we use a fixed time to run the algorithms. And then here are the test instances for the virtual machines. We are using two set of virtual machine types, synthetic one and real world one. And for the number of applications, we're using increasing number of applications ranging from 50 to 200. Each application could have up to 5 microservices, and each microservice could have up to 5 duplicates. So for the PM settings and VM settings, the real world VM settings have like 20 types, and the synthetic one we have 10 types of virtual machines. And for the benchmark algorithm, we are comparing with first feed, best feed, and then a spread rule from Kubernetes and a single objective GA approach. Here are some results. The first one shows the output Pareto front for each algorithm. The failure is similar to availability, only we're trying to minimize this failure. And then the energy consumption, we're also trying to minimize it. So when the dots are closer to the original point, that means it performs well. So when we're comparing 4 algorithms, the first feed, best feed approach has the worst average results, and for the spread, it only minimized the availability of the failure rate. So it also has the worst energy consumption. For the other 2 GA approach, obviously, our proposed NSGA-II has a much better performance, and it can be seen that from this graph, it is much closer to the original point than the other single objective GA. So when we compare the number of virtual machines that generated from these 4 algorithms, the rule-based algorithm generate small and large number of VMs, so that there are a lot of overhead has been used in these virtual machines. And for our proposed NSGA-II, it also uses the minimum a small number of virtual machines, so that it is one of the reasons that it can allocate more containers into the virtual physical machines. And here is the Pareto front from test case 8 run 27. It basically shows the solutions from generation 1 to 100. So we can see as the evolutions continues, it keeps improving and get closer to the original point. So in conclusion, in this paper we propose an NSGA-based NSGA-II-based approach for the microservice allocation in container-based clouds. So we propose this approach with a group representations, and based on that, we propose a set of operators that handles the trade-off between the two objectives. Yeah, that's the presentation. Thank you.